If you wanted to layer in a point cache reference, you would actually have to go and create a model that would support the point cache. So basically, we would just need to take the clothing geometry and maybe the eyeball and skin geometry and nix the entire skeleton and rig. So let's look at actually doing that. I'll save this scene because maybe we do want to bring in a final resolution for export to another pipeline or another software program in a pipeline. So I'll clear my scene after I've saved it, and I'll import one of the characters. Again, on the Malcore character, I'll use the medium res cloth one because that'll work for our purposes here. And I'm going to make sure that the geometry is selectable. And all I really need to make sure of here is that I account for Malcore and the jogging suit, and I could also grab the eyeballs, I suppose. Can't hurt. Don't actually need to worry about the brain of the character, so I'm just going to ignore it and delete it with the rest of the rig. So if I cut the objects out, I'm going to cut all the geo objects out, and I'm actually going to take my geo group with me. I'll just drag and drop it onto the scene root. It means everything else in this scene can go, so I'll delete the entire rig. I'll delete all of the other groups. Don't need the mixer. Don't need the symmetry mapping template. All I'm left with is geometry. We'll call this our point cache model, and I'll drag all of the elements that I've cut out back into the model. So it was just a means of quickly cleaning up. Alright, so I'm going to take that model now, and I'm going to export it. So I'll do an export model. I'll export it as named, Malcore point cache model, and I'll press OK. Actually, let me make sure that the geometry is unselectable when I export it. Nothing like having selectable geometry come in with a rig when you bring it in. Very annoying. So I'll re-export again, overwrite the model I've just saved, and I'll move back into my scene now, the gun scene 2. I'll open up the reference model and I'll point to the point cache. So on the point cache, actually I don't know where this res 6 came from. Let me remove that resolution. So on the point cache here, I'll browse my selected path and I'll pull in the Malcore point cache model. Notice the size reduction already by getting rid of all of the rigging components. So I'll bring that in. So now if I switch to my point cache, I'll get just the geometry. Very light, very efficient, very portable. What we're going to do now is use our earlier reference models to store off a geometry cache that we can load back on to our main character.